Welcome to Stop Wasting Your Wine, a wine review podcast dedicated to helping you discover great wines with great value for every occasion. On this episode, we interview
Chris Louton from St. Francis Winery. I said last name wrong after we... Wait, Louton? Louton.
No, you did it.
I said it
You
right.
nailed
Yeah.
it.
It's staying in.
It's staying in. We're good.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Joel. Today, I am not only joined by Colin and Aaron as usual, but like we mentioned, we are joined today by Chris Louton from St. Francis Winery. Chris is a winemaker at St. Francis Winery and Vineyards. Came to St. Francis in 2013 after spending several years at Beringer Vineyards, where he worked on luxury tier Cabernet Sauvignon and other Bordeaux varietals. Originally on track for a career in veterinary medicine, Chris, I want to explore that a little bit. I think that's pretty awesome.
That's one hell of a swing.
I love that. But in a twist of fate here, a winemaking class at UC Davis changed everything for him. Today, Chris oversees Cabernet Sauvignon, Bordeaux varietals, and Sauvignon Blanc at St. Francis with a focus on wines that are compelling, balanced, and true to Sonoma County. Chris, thank you so much for joining. We are so excited to have you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Great being here. Happy to join. Thanks for the nice introduction there. That was very well said. I think you summed it up pretty precisely there. Yeah. How we got to where I am today is, a unique story.
It's a lot to sum up, and I would be remiss if I didn't go back and ask about the veterinary services, and then we went on a different track. Tell me about that.
Yeah. You think probably just after a while I was tired of picking up dog poop, which is, it's kind of the truth.
I really need a glass of wine. I'm just going to make it myself.
I really need a glass of wine. No, I got interested in that whole field in high school, and even as a senior in high school, started working in animal hospitals, and I just found a passion for it. Wine wasn't on my radar, at all at that time. Obviously, as a senior, there was, I have to say that.
Sure.
But, and then fast forward a long few years and going through college. And I think one of the great things that, colleges may make us all do, even though we might not want to, is go outside your realm of studying, which for me was just like hardcore science and biology and, taking a lot of math and stuff like that. And I signed up for this, heard this rave reviews. I was at UC Davis at the time for a winemaking course, this introduction to winemaking, which sounded really cool. Big lecture hall. I enrolled, and it was like my senior year, and I showed up for the first day. It's like a 500, or was like a 500 student, led, course in this big lecture hall, but it had a lab. And I always say it's not like your traditional biology lab or chemistry lab. This was like a wine tasting lab. So of course there's 500 college students signed up for this course, right? And so day one, kid you not, the professor comes in and breaks the news that like the TTB was like, they're shutting us down. The lab's over. We're serving minors, basically. It was the gist of it. And a day later, there was at least half the class was missing. And probably 3 days later, it was like 125 people were left. So, yeah. So I didn't taste. I had to buy my own wine for the class to taste at home, which worked out well. Got me hooked for sure. But so I fell in love with it. I thought it all of a sudden became like this realm of like, wait a minute, there's something really cool out there that I can apply my studies to, that I have this real interest about and curiosity for. And it just just shot off. It just took off. And I think, speak to my family, they were like, dude, you changed that year. Like something clicked, something woke up, and I kind of never looked back.
That's awesome. So you went into, take the class, not really, just looking to drink some wine and sort of see what's going on there. You had no intention of making this pivot. You just kind of got sucked in and hooked, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's so cool.
My wine memories were like bottles of wine at dinner for my parents, my grandma had her, no one in my family, my uncle had real interest in it, but I didn't know the vineyard. I grew up in Sacramento, California, like decently, not surrounded by this environment.
So did you kind of float around in wine, or did you, after you kind of set off, you found your way to St. Francis, or was there kind of something in between?
Yeah, after there was definitely something in between. In fact, there was a whole year, a gap year between.
Yeah.
I graduated with this biological sciences degree and re-enrolled as another bachelor degree student for another 2-year run through the wine department, which
Nice.
allowed me to actually do some internships during the summertime. So I was able to start figuring out, like, is this, where, what, how do I want to be involved in winemaking? At what standpoint? I
Mhm.
was always just interested in production and, boots on the ground and cellar and
Sure.
all those aspects of it. So yeah, I did internships at Schramsberg Vineyards. Gosh,
Mm.
this was like 2002, 2003. Graduated in 2003, and then basically just didn't leave my internship and was just kind of
Sure.
kept showing up to work. And I think they were like, we'll find you some more work to do. And
Nice.
so it turned into a full-time gig, which was awesome
Yeah.
because that's my education in sparkling wine was through them. There's just
Awesome.
not a lot of time in school to spend on sparkling wine production and champagne and
Gotcha.
all the different methods. It's like a chapter or a page in a chapter of a book. And so, I was right there learning about something I really hadn't spent, the past 2 years learning about, and just the different processes and the timing
Sure.
of it. And so, again, instantly hooked with an amazing team with people I'm still friends with today. And I tell you what, hooked
Nice.
on sparkling wine like no other, because it's like,
Nice.
once you can get it for free, it's hard to wean yourself off. But, I was young, and they had a Cabernet program at the time as well, a burgeoning young Cabernet program. So there was a little bit of tidbit in there for me to kind of see, like, I'm still winemaking. What's this all about? And so Behringer had a position
That's right.
at the
That's
time.
right.
I don't know what they call it now, but it was their luxury tier. I got to stay in Napa Valley and work on the world-class vineyards in Howell Mountain and Spring Mountain, Diamond Mountain,
Amazing.
Oakville, Rutherford, just see it all. And then also work in Sonoma County via the Knights Valley Cabernet program. So that was sort of my step over to the other side of California into Sonoma. In 2013, when I got a knock on my door from St. Francis to come, basically work full time in Sonoma County and just seeing what they had to offer, it was good timing and just something I didn't want to miss an opportunity to do. And I've been here, and again, everywhere I've gone, just people have been amazingly supportive, allowed us to be creative, kind of let us be ourselves in a way, and really just this teams. I've been fortunate to have really good teams surrounding me basically my entire career.
That helps.
That's awesome. So to pivot to St. Francis, St. Francis has a long history and a huge audience at this point, a lot of fans. So how do you think about contributing to that legacy while still putting your own fingerprint on the wines that you're making today?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because it is. So you walk in and you're sort of rewriting a script in a way. Like, what do you do? I think they chose me, as a candidate because of the style of wines I was already making and exposed to out in Napa and stuff, and sort of those, what we were doing was similar to what they wanted to do as well and sort of carry forward. But after that point, it was like, what's amazing about, I think, working for them and this winery and the mindset that they have is like they let our personalities come into these wines and decisions, and taking forward with something new, but we're smart about it. So, and we taste as a team together a lot, and so I'm not driving the style off in one particular off the rails, if you will. So if I'm going to change something, it's going to move the needle maybe more slowly than drastically. But yeah, it really wasn't like, when you walk in the door day one, there was still a lot of unanswered questions. There was sort of like, go do what you do. We like what you've made before and helped make before from your other wineries. Those are styles of wines that we think we want to achieve. And St. Francis at that time had already established itself. I'm not, I was walking into a very well-established brand with styles of wines that sort of reflected winemaking I had done before. And then now is just time to move those ideas forward with techniques I was bringing to the table, and with new fruit sources and everything that goes along with that.
So man, there were so many things you said there, and it's actually like perfectly lines up with the question I was going to ask. So when you're thinking about such a wide range of wine drinkers, and with such a big brand and with such a large audience, how do you, as a winemaker to such a large audience, how do you approach the creation of these wines and addressing the personality of these wines while also trying to appeal to such a large variety of wine drinkers? So, looking at your own personality in winemaking and also trying to appeal to such a large audience.
Yeah. You just never think about the people you're making wine for.
I love that answer so much.
You can get in your head real quick, trying to satisfy every consumer out there. And I would love to, do that. But at some point, you're like, there's only so much we can put our stamp on to a certain point. Like, do I want to make, sub 13% reds? Do I want to make, that's going to drive a lot. That's going to drive a style drastically right off the bat from that first pick date. Do I want to make these like huge, fruit bombs that are going to, kind of gravitate one crowd only. Like people are going to gravitate to that, but not everyone. And so, it's kind of taking it just it sounds probably so stupid and boring, but, it's like, it really is like one step at a time, one vineyard at a time. And just like, we have to roll with the punches, each year, with what Mother Nature gives us, and, work with people who understand what picking ripe fruit means for certain things and what our objectives are, and like patience. And so, we're working with, either family or, our director of viticulture. He's a wine nerd geek extraordinaire and loves to drink wine. And so if you have the guy who's growing over half of your fruit, loves wine, and can speak days on end, you're in a pretty good position. All right. And then now it's just about getting it right. And just understand after a while, you just get a level of comfort that, if that didn't turn, if that you want to do something different with that fruit, well, 10 days later, when you pick another group of vineyards or whatever, like mix it up on the fly. So we're constantly adapting, to land it into, this sort of wide target, if you will, of style that we're going for. But definitely Mother Nature. Our wines are, definitely have vintage, stamps on them. You can tell a hot good year versus a cool year, everything that goes on out here. And so, that is also something that we, enjoy doing.
That's wild to think about, because it makes perfect sense. I love how, you can't sit there and think about, this is a hot trend right now. This is what this group wants. If I do this over here, this group will be happy. I could just see you driving yourself crazy. But I imagine too, your experience in Cabernet in a couple of different settings, a couple of different regions, has really shaped the way that you think about finding the balance and finding, the style that you want in your wines. So taking other people out of it, can you tell us a little bit about how your experience has really shaped what you look for when you're making your wine?
Yeah, I was brought up under like leave no stone unturned type of philosophy. And, just I for me personally, like I taste my wines a lot, to understand where they are and where they're going, and then reproducing that. And so year in, year out, and understanding like the iterations and the reason why maybe I'm seeing something, one way or the other. And that was just the way I was, just taught. We were just tasted so much and just went to understand it. I think that just got ingrained in my DNA. And from there, I haven't really let that go. And so, I just find it fascinating, right? That wine each day it's something different, and like 3 months later, it's different. It's constantly moving, and that again, I don't think about that too much, because that can get you really bogged down and sort of,
Sure,
in a way, scared, if you will. But it's like, this is part of the process, and so understanding. I think that's just why I'm still doing this job, is because I find it just as fascinating now as I did 20 years ago.
What's funny too is I hear some undercurrents of your original, kind of science veterinarian mindset and path in there coming through, that is still kind of inspiring you to tinker and to try something a little bit different. And try and see the impact. So I just, really cool kind of underline that goes through kind of your whole journey there.
Yeah, it's like a big science experiment in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But what I say is, hey, come to my lab anytime because you can mouth pipette and drink the medium, if you will.
That's amazing. Yes.
You don't want to do that in most labs.
Yeah. So for someone pouring a glass of St. Francis, without really knowing what went into it, what do you hope breaks through right away? What do you hope they're experiencing in the glass?
I just think they hope it brings a smile to their face, that it just reminds them instantly of something that is, that tastes with pleasure, whether fruit or savory notes, or that just makes you stop and sort of think like, oh, this is what great wine should just be about. Like, there's a lot of layers here. There's a personality in this wine. Like, hopefully you can feel the care that we put into it and the love that goes into these wines. But we want them to enjoy, like, these wines, particularly the Sonoma County tier is like, yeah, we want you to have confidence. You can buy that today and take it home today and enjoy it. And that's kind of what life is about at this level for a lot of our wines. And then, there's other wines obviously that are meant for other purposes. So,
sure.
I just want to keep them loving wine. Just give them a reason to come back.
I think that's important at the $15 level, because there's a lot of wine, and we've tried a lot of wine at the $15 level. That's not always the best. There's not always a lot of love and a lot of care in this price range. So I appreciate that that's where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, no, that's good. If you don't mind, I'm going to pour myself a glass, if that's okay.
Please.
Amazingly, I happen to have a bottle of my own wine here, which I don't drink very often, so
There's no drinking on this show, Chris.
See, I only have one. I'm an amateur. I can't do the double swirl. But
and I don't want to hold us off. I only have one more question for you before we actually get into these, because you all were kind enough to send us a couple bottles to try. But I do have one important question, and Colin just kind of set it up really well. And we asked Katie the same question last week. Because, to be honest, like, when we heard that we were going to get the opportunity to interview you and Katie, we were really excited because we know how big of a brand, how big of a market St. Francis has. And it was exciting and intimidating because really large brands we know have the potential to be hidden gems, and we know have the potential to be horrifyingly bad. Because we just know what happens when bulk production happens. And so to have the opportunity to be face to face with the winemakers behind often like a very large name is really, really cool. And last week with Katie, we tried two really, really awesome wines, and to talk to Katie about her philosophy and why the price points are. Where they are and the care put in, which is really awesome. And so I'm sure we're going to have a very similar experience with you today after hearing so much about St. Francis. But the question I wanted to ask is, like, how do you personally, like, protect the soul of the wine and the care that goes into the wine, and just like as St. Francis gets, big and like you can find it anywhere, like how do you protect the quality of your product as you have to produce on such a wide level?
Protect the soul of the wine.
Sorry, that was heady, right? That was a good one.
That was heavy.
That was a little heavy. Yeah, that was.
I'm taking that with me to work tomorrow. There's gonna be a meeting.
We're gonna protect the soul.
It's true though, right? You kind of carry this brand that came before me, and my job is to pass it along to the next winemaker, and Katie's job. The only question I was curious if you didn't have us on together. I was hoping. I haven't seen her in years, and
really?
That was a joke.
I was like, you guys, are you at different wings? Do they keep you separate?
I'm a little nervous because I'm second to go, and I'm afraid of what she said. I'm trying to think about what she.
It was a really good answer, Chris.
I imagine it was. So protecting the soul of the wine. Yeah, I was carrying this forward. What was the question again?
Let me outdoor reduce it. I will just like you guys put so much. No, it's like so much care into it. Just how do you make sure like as you're doing this work that as it gets bigger, like you just protect the quality of what you're putting out into the world.
Yeah. No, it's. It does start at at the winery with the fact that, we've been in business over 50 years, a family who's invested long-term, not short-term, and invested early on to where, they, over half of the fruit we grow, we turn into our wines. And so that right there is like an anchoring point that is almost impossible to do today without large banks worth of money to accomplish, getting land and fruit in the ground and everything. So I think it's this historical perspective of how some of these brands like St. Francis can continue today still offering, $15-$20 bottles of wine that are really authentic to place, and you can come and touch and smell and see every piece of this business from day one to the day it goes out on the bottling line, which we also have our own bottling line. So from a standpoint of like being there till the bitter end, to see that wine off is control that we all want as winemakers, but we don't always get. You definitely, through my time, I tip my cap to those who do, have to make wine at various facilities throughout the state and areas. And so that's a whole nother bag of tricks you have with you. So for us, it's right there. It's like, you can't take your eyes off of it. And then, having these great families out here in Sonoma County that have been growing fruit for 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, that makes you stand up and like pay attention to it and like feel a responsibility that someone else is relying on you too. It's there's people that are expecting a great product because we delivered that in the past, and so we want to continue doing that. So I think that's what gets me out of bed every day, and that's what gets me to the cellar and like, let me taste that wine one more time just to make sure.
Heck yeah, that was a really great answer.
Great answer. Insane.
I promise you, Katie told me nothing of what you guys. So I don't know if you told her to
word for word the same answer. How'd that happen?
That was perfect and so good. And honestly, really a joy, Chris, to get to know a little bit more about your background, your approach, St. Francis and kind of their legacy. But right now, I'm kind of with you. I think it's time to start drinking these wines. You were kind enough to send along a Merlot and a Cabernet Sauvignon, both from 2023. So super excited to try them. And if you don't mind, if you could just kind of give us a little breakdown of the wines we're going to try and let us know kind of the order you want us to explore these.
Tastes like wine.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the Merlot. That tends as a natural trend, particularly these two wines going side by side. And these are you could go either way. Sometimes I'm very, like, when we taste wines, we're like, no, you have to taste that one first or else it's going to bury the fruit in the second one. But I think, in this vintage, they are kind of interchangeable. But I think it's a classic way to start a tasting, particularly with Merlot, as, setting the ground, putting Merlot for the first time in Sonoma Valley out here in Sonoma County, 50 plus years ago. And to still, through it all, still really believe in this variety and what it can be and what it is and why it was a great wine and why it still is a great wine in all of our opinions. And so, and what's cool about this story is I had the opportunity, we, the whole team, but really put on to myself and our director of vineyard operations, who you guys would love to have on, Jake Terrell. We were given the opportunity to like clean the slate of 100 acres of property and do whatever it is that we wanted to do, to plant the next Merlot vineyard for the brand. And so that isn't, from a lifetime of, to be able to do it from that level of soil analysis to every geeky imaginable air temperatures, wind direction, sun, everything, right? And what do you do with Merlot? Like, this is our main source. I basically took it from 100 acres of one big, gigantic block of Merlot that it had a garden hose big. It was like, you water or you don't water. And if you water everything. And imagine today, and with it, that's not the best way anymore. It worked then, and that's what they had. But putting together the tools that we've been given and to geek out and then take one great clone of Merlot and expand upon that and say, hey, this little tiny postage stamp on Mother Earth, what can I do to eke out differences so I can make some really cool, fun wines and kind of make that blend in the field before it even gets to the winery, if you will. And so that's what I'm doing here with this particular wine. It's basically 100% Merlot. Oftentimes, sometimes I'll drop in like a few percentage points of Malbec. I just follow that out. I just love the Malbec we have. It's just like lush and soft and like brings in these nice little characters to it. But if I can showcase the Merlot, and I think it's because there's there's these French clones, there's these Italian clones. It's this high fruit flavored Merlot to really dark savory Merlots being grown in this one ranch. And so putting those together, like it kind of puts the blend together. I mean, it's kind of like cheating, but it's not cheating because all the hard work was done up front.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And, and I think it's just a good, clean, pure expression of Merlot. There's, for us, it can be very red fruited, if you will, like dark cherry, dark strawberries, nice, fresh, savory herbal characters. That's very classic of Merlot itself. And then splash in some new oak to give it that extra oomph and lift, but not a lot. Katie and I kind of really want these wines to showcase the varietals and the personalities and let the oak be there as a background supporting character. So a lot of times just like 20%, new barrel influence is all you kind of need to like amplify those great fruit and pastry characters that the vineyard's producing already.
Nice. Sounds amazing. Yeah. If you don't mind too, Colin and Aaron, I'll see, kind of give me what you're getting. We can take a sip and, tell me what you're calling out. And then Chris, let us know, if there's anything else that you want us to kind of focus on and pick out as well.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite games to play when we have
with the winemaker on.
The winemaker.
Yeah, that's the best.
I always love that scene from that Amy Poehler wine movie where he's like, say anything, you can't be wrong. And then she says something. He's like, no, that's wrong.
That's wrong.
No, that's wrong.
If I had a bleep button, I'd be, All right, give it. Fire away.
Yeah, what do you guys want to call out?
Yeah, I think for me, red fruit is definitely what comes forward. I'm getting a little strawberry, I think red cherry, maybe a little red plum in there, but it's very red fruit forward. And the fruit is very fresh. I sometimes think Sonoma or Napa, California, it's going to be very intense fruit, overripe, sometimes a little bit jammy. This, on the nose at least, is definitely not that. There's a freshness to this, which I appreciate.
Aaron?
You know what? I was just saying, like, I agree with everything Colin says, but actually I'm appreciating a lot of the subtlety on the nose. That I think we've opened some Merlots in the past that have just like punched you in the face with the alcohol or punched you in the face with the oak. And this has just kind of like a really nice blend of the aromas that Colin just named and like a blend of the oakiness. And it's all just kind of coming at you at just all together, kind of holding hands. And as opposed to like, I still always go back to that one Merlot, like not to be named, that we just like opened up and it just like, we all just kind of like reeled back and just fell out of our chairs. And, like, it's like, I always appreciate when everything's just kind of like working in tandem and not kind of knocking you out of your seat.
Well, it's so funny you say that because I was thinking of that. And what I was going to say is I think what hit us in that situation was it was like, whoa, oak. Like oak in the face. But I'm not getting whoa oak, I'm getting, there's a lovely, vanilla in there. Like I'm getting the influence of that oak in a really lovely way. So obviously there, but just, really, really nicely presented.
Yeah, for sure. And then maybe I'm crazy on this one, but I'm getting a little bit of earth quality in there. Maybe a little, maybe a little like dirt, but in the best way. I know sometimes people like, they don't want dirt in their wine. I personally, it's a flavor note that I love, but I think, is that right, Chris? Am I?
Yeah. You're. Yeah, I don't mind. I talk about dirt too, but I understand what you're saying because people are like dirt, like like
exactly.
What do you mean dirt? And then you try to come up with clever ways to do it, like loamy soil. Think of like violets and that earthiness of that flower, but in that wet compost, soil.
Yeah.
I think it's a sense of like, it's not just like earthy in a good way, because it sort of alludes to like spiciness too. And some of those hard
Spicy
to sort
is
of
the perfect
define
word.
spicy, like cardamom and clove and,
Definitely.
these subtleties, not like just we're, splashing in, fresh herb, these real herbs, but like at the subtle note and that mix of everything. And obviously as we start to taste and swirl and stuff, you're going to see more of those things come through and come and go. But definitely I don't shy away from earthiness. I think, I lean on just the fact that, Bordeaux varieties in themselves are naturally herbaceous, and that's but that's varietally correct as well. So we're not too shy away. I mean, we don't want you guys to pop open a bottle of wild and just be like bell pepper and like fresh salad. I mean, that's not the goal either, but we're going to embrace some of those like freshness to the herbs.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's a great descriptor.
Okay.
Nice.
Good. Yeah, and then herbal, I will say, kind of on top of that, to blend it with that dirt, I think is also a great call, because there's also, an herbal edge to this, a little bit more green, and again, it's not bell pepper or anything like that, but there's this green herbal note, I think, that kind of blends in with the earthiness, which is really nice.
Good.
Definitely.
Awesome.
So I know we've all been, as we're talking about this, taking sips as well. So anything anybody wants to call out on the palate too?
No, I mean, I think everything, a lot of things that Colin called out on the nose, like, are translating really well onto the palate. But I think there's also some other, maybe like a few richer flavors that are translating more on the palate that you don't get on the nose. Like, there's like, I'm a coffee drinker, so it's like a lot of things that Colin like names on the palate I often like have not eaten or don't, so when he's like, he says things like dirt, I'm one of those people who are like dirt, but like I'm getting a little bit like coffee or chocolate like on the palate sipping this, that I'm like, ooh, this is something that is connecting to me when I'm sipping this that I don't get on the nose. So I wanted to name that before anyone else took those, because those are things I actually identify.
Well done, Aaron.
Good, thank you. I will be silent now while the more qualified people
that was great.
continue.
Yeah.
Colin, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what we got on the nose translates. Those fruit, again, ripe, I will say, but not overly ripe. Still fresh, but maybe it's a little riper than I thought on the nose. But then I think, honestly, everything else is there. The red fruit, the oak, the earthiness. I think it all really comes through nicely. Joel, what are you picking up?
I was just going to say, really enjoying, nice level of acid in there as well.
Yeah, we
Some
haven't
nice
talked about
tannins
structure.
in there too. Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, just a really nice, just amongst all of those wonderful flavor notes, just a really nice balanced structure here too to kind of carry everything along. It's really, really lovely.
I totally agree.
I'm not arguing with anything you guys are saying. Run the gamut of coffee characters when we're tasting as well. It runs from like just espresso, like bean, all the way to like mocha, and like you got coffee grounds, and then you got that chocolate interlay in there. And I think right now, this wine's been in bottle for a little under a year. And so you still have a lot of those youthful oak components coming through, particularly in the palate, because it's sort of lifting that element to it. And so still making its present a little more, I guess you could say, heavy-handed right now than it would in another like 9 to 12 months. That would start to dissipate a little bit, going into the background a little bit. But, it's still young. So, yeah, it's a little punchy there. And it's like, it lets you know it's there. That's for sure.
I mean, there's two things I want to add before we move on. One is, I think from an aspect of accessibility for someone who's listening, who might be more of a white wine drinker, who's like looking for those red wines that maybe you don't like the big, bold tannic wines, I think this might be a wine that you could approach, because there is like a lower, for red wine, the tannin is not overbearing at all. The tannin is very accessible. And I think the acidity really balances out, and the flavors really balance it out. So if you're trying to get into red wines, you're not like a big red wine drinker, but you want a red wine that you can approach with a meal, I think this is a lot more accessible than some other heavier reds that we've had. And the second thing I would say, this is a 14.8% alcohol ABV.
No way.
Yeah, I was looking at this. I'm like, what is this, 13.5? I was like, oh, this is 14.8. And so the fact that I didn't get any alcohol on the nose when we again, hats off to you, sir, when we were looking at that balance, because again, we've opened up some high ABV Merlots and reds in the past when we just get like punched in the face with that alcohol, and like I did not get any of that at all on the nose.
It's a balancing act. If anything is going to dominate, it will be alcohol if it's not supported by other ingredients, if you will, other aspects of both flavor and texture. And if you get those out of balance, that alcohol will stick itself out and start to not just smell it, but it really alters the flavor profile and the experience in the end, and not like a good way, if you will.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Distracting almost, right?
It's distracting. Yeah. It's we love our alcohol. I mean, that's why we like it, but it's like it has its place. And it's a key, right? And it changes everything. It's like as that changes around, you're gonna smell and taste things differently too. So that's one thing we're also, spend a lot of time look at, from the growing season to the final blend.
That is a terrifying fact. based on how easy this goes down, because that is
I shouldn't have
there's
told Colin
nothing
until the
about
end.
that says 14.8%.
Now you know. Now you know.
I do. I can't undrink the wine I've drank.
I wouldn't want to. Love it. All right. Well, let's rock and roll. I think that's a wonderful synopsis there. We've also got the Cabernet Sauvignon. Chris, what should we know about this?
Yeah, this is quite a bit different. So that Merlot, you're looking at really focused on one vineyard of ours that we have. It's basically right around the winery itself down in Kenwood, Sonoma. So, but now the cab, this is definitely an expression of cab from all over Sonoma County. So true cuvee. I mean, it's anchored in a unique place for Cabernet in California, which is the Russian River appellation, which is more known for Pinot and Chardonnay for good reason, because it heads all the way out to the coast. This particular vineyard, which is an estate of ours, is inland and kind of at the crux of where Chalk Hill, Alexander Valley, and Russian River come together. So it's this cool, really fun place to make cab, because it's a rolling hillside up onto the slopes of a mountain, and it's not mountain fruit, it's hillside fruit, and it's not valley floor fruit. So it's a sweet spot in between, which is like a cool thing. There's a lot of Cabernet out there, and there's a lot of Sonoma County cab out there, and like, well, what's different about ours versus like everyone else's? It's like, well, ours is anchored and starts in the Russian River, which is smack dab basically in the middle of Sonoma County. And then we layer in all the other growing regions like Alexander Valley, particularly from the valley floor, which produces these really accessible, early to drink cab, just full of cherry and strawberry and like really supple tannins, like easy drinking Cabernet. And then Cabernet from closer to the San Francisco Bay, which is my like spice box, that's where I get black olive, that's where I get sage, thyme, savory, earthy, all those characters that are really signature clues that you're drinking Cabernet, but they're almost like hyper focused down in this region. And so those are kind of like the three like stepping stones of the blend, and then throw in a little bit of cab from mountainsides to kind of give it some bootstraps, if you will, some anchor to really kind of bring in some texture that you're expecting with Cabernet as well. So yeah, I'm pouring a glass now, so make sure what I'm telling you is true.
I love it.
So, I mean, it smells like it's true.
Yeah, there's a few blenders in there. So, we have some other blended varieties, a little Malbec and some Merlot oftentimes finds its way in there. But predominantly you're looking at Cabernet with some supporting characters of the other Bordeaux varieties.
Yeah, I would say this is a little like darker than the Merlot. It comes across maybe not as much strawberry for me, and maybe a little bit like darker cherry, a darker plum, but it still has kind of an herbal edge to it, which is really nice. And I think the oak just on the nose anyway is, I don't know, did this see a little bit more oak? Because it smells a little more oaky than the Merlot, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
It's right around the same, but it's also different like cooperages as well.
Oh,
and
okay.
so like a chef has a spice rack, a cooper, a barrel, despite maybe sounding like it's the same thing. Each cooper has their own time over a fire, and that caramelizes their wood a little bit differently, and so it influences a little bit a wine differently, especially when you change variety. Like some cooperages just taste different, Merlot to Cabernet. So that's another lever that we use to bring forth something a little bit different, so it can showcase a little bit heavier,
but still well integrated. And by heavier, I mean it's not like a punch in the face. It's still, I think it matches the grape, because the cab's a little bit heavier than Merlot in general. So I think it kind of matches. It lines up really well.
Aaron, anything to call out?
No, I mean the same general takeaway as last time is like, again, 14.5%, taking a big pull right off the top, not getting that alcohol burn that we've gotten off the top of a lot of 14.5% wines. Like I gave myself like a fresh pour just to see if it's just because I've left my glass out, and it's not. And I got that cherry right off the top, like you named, Colin, with a little bit of oak, and they balance each other out really nice. And again, it's like there's no big punch in the face. It's just a lot of well balanced, integrated aromas with each other, which I have a lot of appreciation for.
Punch in the face is everybody's favorite term right now.
I know we're punching a lot today.
Yeah, we got a lot of faces.
You punch a lot when there's a lot of 14.5% alcohols in front of you. There's more punching when that happens, just naturally.
I get it. You know what though, and I don't know if you guys have taken a sip. I definitely have, and I encourage you to. But gosh, that's just a nice, soft mouthfeel. It's just, lovely. This might not make any sense, but I'm going to try to explain this and then hope it makes some sense. But I feel like sometimes with a Cabernet, it can get sort of heavy and kind of bogged down. And this has just a really nice, soft, elegant feel to it. But it's also somehow like a little bit more lifted, I think, than some cabs that you might try from California. Was that an intentional thing, or am I just way off base here, Chris?
No, I mean, we're 23 was just one of these amazing vintages that kept freshness out in the field and the fruit for the whole season. One of those years you could just wait to pick and let things sort of take care of themselves in the vineyard. I think that, but that's also one of the signatures of Sonoma County too, is because of that coastal Pacific Ocean coast influence that we get before that carries over the mountains and gets into Napa. We get to steal off some of that cool ocean air, and that really provides like a unique mouthfeel, particularly in like the middle of the palate, like not your first sip and not the last thing you taste, but right in the middle. There's a lightness, airiness, freshness that I find typically out of Sonoma County, where if you go to, say, Napa, that's a little more denser, richer, sits in that middle of the taste, a little bit heavier, and just a different expression of, and I think it has a lot to do with just where we're sitting and where our vineyards are sitting as well. So I like that about it. I think, it's kind of almost, if it could be refreshing and quenching, then, that gets me excited.
Absolutely.
To show that in Cabernet, which is not the easiest thing to do in California because of the weather that we do get.
The tannin in this wine is super approachable. Like Cabernet can be super aggressive with its tannin, but this gives you a nice hug around the gums. It's there, but it doesn't take away from anything else. It's not the one thing you notice the most. The structure is really nicely balanced, and the tannin just kind of adds to the experience.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if the Merlot was like the first rung on the ladder, this is like the next rung on the ladder. It's like you could like lead someone into red wines just by like placing these bottles like up to a bear trap, just like lead them in with the tannins.
Ooh, bottle of wine.
A loving bear trap with like good wines in it. I don't know.
I was say, what wine's in the bear trap?
It's a really good wine.
The really good wine.
It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
I love that. Chris, anything you want to call out here? Anything we need to really appreciate here that we might have missed?
Oh man, no, this is good. You guys are polished. You know what you're talking about here, because you didn't leave any like wide open doors for me to be like, oh, I can easily clean that up and make something. I think that's just the name of the game. Approachable, good acidity, freshness. I mean, those are all trademarks we're trying to achieve with each vintage, and so to capture that that moment in time is exciting, and hopefully people enjoy that when they do get to experience it.
So much fun to first learn a whole heck of a lot about these wines and then to actually taste them. I think there's nothing left to do here, gentlemen, except for let's go ahead and give them our review.
Yeah, but did they like it? It's time for the review.
All right. Before we get into it, Aaron, give everybody at home, give Chris a quick rundown of our very scientific rating system, please.
Yeah, absolutely. On the show, we don't believe in numbers, so we just talk about, how wine makes us feel. It's all about the vibes. So, Colin, why don't you kick us off? How would you talk about this wine?
So I'll start with the Merlot. I really, really like the Merlot. For me, this is an absolute must-share.
Hey.
I think as far as the Merlot goes at the $15 to $18 range, I don't know if you get too much better, to be honest. I mean, it's really well balanced. The fruit flavors are fantastic. The structure is really nice. I just really am enjoying the wine, and I think the value and the accessibility, I will say one through line for all of these wines that we've tasted, even with Katie, has been accessibility. I mean, these are just easy drinking, super fun, just really enjoyable wines. And at the price point, they're all fantastic, but I'm enjoying the heck out of the Merlot. So, that for me is a must share. The Cab is going to be a solid pour. I think this is a really just great easy drinking cab that you can bring anywhere. A lot of people are going to like it. It's a great intro cab. It's not overly tannic. It has a lot of fruit flavors. It's not something that needs to be aged. So, I think it's just a really good wine to have around. And just if you want a really delicious cab, just pick this one up, because again, at $15, the value on these is outstanding.
That's
Aaron?
super interesting to me because I'm flipping them, Colin. That's so funny. And I think it's just a preference thing. That's funny because we've talked about in the past, like, I'm more of a cab guy than a Merlot guy. And so I think it's stylistic. I think the cab is an absolute must share. Like, I think for $16, it's an absolute must share. Like, if you're going to go out and grab a cab and like you want to grab one for sub $20, like, this is a must share and something you can bring with you and talk about and share with folks. And I think the Merlot, and you just want to have a wine in your house that you can pop open and just have a solid pour. That's this Merlot for you. Just, you can have it. It's around the house, pop it open anytime, enjoy it on Tuesday night, solid pour. But they're both super accessible, and at sub $20, like, there's absolutely no reason not to grab these when you're walking past them in the supermarket. Joel?
It's funny. I'm gonna align with you on this one, Aaron. So similar things, but let me call out a couple things here. I'm gonna start with the Merlot because just absolutely, just really, really lovely. And I loved the, so much conversation that we had around it too. So many different things peeking out of there. Extremely well balanced. Really, really just enjoyed the experience of that Merlot. This Cabernet though, I don't think I've enjoyed a Cabernet this much in a little while. I mean, just something about that, what we were talking about with just, how, airy, and I'm going to say lifted, maybe it's a dumb word, but I'm going to say it. It's an experience that I have not had with a Cabernet in a really long time. So that's definitely something that I really want to, share and highlight with my friends. So total must share in that regard. Really enjoyable on both. I'm going to beat the dead horse one more time and just say I can't believe the price point on these two.
Ridiculous.
It's incredible. And to your point earlier, Aaron, what you were talking about too, it's just, higher numbers of production, but still just extreme quality and, just a great experience to have. Really dependable wines here. Really cool intersection here that Chris, that you found, and just really, really lovely examples. Thank you so much for bringing them to us. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I tip my cap to you guys for coming up with perfect things to say. I mean, I can't agree anymore. Obviously, I want you guys to say stuff like that. It sounds, and the consumer who's picking these bottles up and actually having that experience at home. So, that's what we definitely, Katie and I, that's what we put our attention to each year, and try to execute that so that we have fans not just one time, but they come back to that wine aisle again and again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you talked earlier about, accessibility and affordability, and that's kind of what the show's all about. It's like, we're just trying to find wine that people can just get access to and enjoy and feel like they can keep going back to without, feeling like they have to spend $1 million to get a good experience with wine, because we know that wine doesn't have to be something that feels inaccessible to folks.
That's
Absolutely.
it. It's the name of the game. Awesome. All right. Well, Chris, if it's okay, we promise it'll be super quick.
Okay.
If you don't mind, we'll play one of our favorite quick games here. It's called Pinot or Chardonnay.
And here's the thing. Normally, this is a game that we would all answer the question, but you're going to be the only one to answer the question today, Chris. This is just for you. This is catered. This is catered solely for you, Chris, because this is
okay.
And so I'm going to be honest with you. So when we saw that you all sent us a Merlot, we thought it would be very funny and ask a question about the movie Sideways, and then we figured that would be beating a dead horse, because we assumed, working with Merlot, you have probably had about 22 years of people making jokes about the movie Sideways. So then
we're above that here, Chris. We're not going to do that.
So then we figured
Only
we'd ask a
slightly,
question about people asking questions about the movie Sideways. So here's your question. So, Pinot or Chardonnay. Are people still referencing the movie Sideways when talking about Merlot in your industry? Or has that finally played out? Like, so Chardonnay, you have escaped the ghost of Paul Giamatti, and no one's talking about it anymore.
The ghost of Paul Giamatti.
It's still coming up all the time, and you have to talk about it.
Pinot. We still have to talk about it.
I am sorry to add to that.
Yeah.
But I think it's can I go beyond Pinot
please,
as a
please,
sideline?
Please. Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they are saying it out loud. I think they're saying it inside in that little voice they have. They're like, I'm not supposed to like that because something's telling me not to. And you can see it in their eyes.
Sure.
When you tell them what they have, and they all of a sudden they kind of like they kind of back away. They get a little fearful, and they're not saying, oh yeah. So I think we're at that stage of an intersection of like, okay, we just need to get them to move that one more step away. So we're getting close.
Wow, it's like
Nice.
still
That's progress.
impacting the industry on like a financial and consumer level, like 22
That's
years
crazy.
later. Like, wow.
But hey, this would be a
Insane.
great Merlot.
Yeah.
To get past that.
1,000%.
This is a great Merlot. So
Yeah.
go try this because it's
Yeah.
excellent.
The ghost of Paul
Chardonnay to that one.
Chardonnay.
Yes, Chardonnay to this
There it is.
Merlot. Paul Giamatti, if you're
Love
watching this, shame on you.
Also, drop us a DM. We'll
Yeah. Paul Giamatti, if you're watching this, thank you.
Yeah. All right, Chris, we have kept you long enough. Thank you. We are so appreciative of your time, sending us these fantastic bottles of wine and just sharing a little bit about yourself and St. Francis. We had an absolute blast. Before we kind of close everything out, anything that you want to call out or, kind of advertise on your end?
Hey, this is like you said, I think, make wine fun, enjoy it. It's out there to bring us together, not keep us apart. So don't be afraid to try something new, and don't be afraid to try something you like as well. Like, there's no right or wrong here. So find what it is that drives your passion in wine and keep exploring.
Love it.
Awesome.
Heck yeah.
Love it. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that'll do it here for us on the St. Francis Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. Absolutely not a waste of your wine. We enjoy the heck out of them and encourage you to go ahead and give them. And I think at this point, we've tried a whole heck of a lot of the St. Francis catalog, and we can
Try 'em all.
We can
They're all
say
fantastic.
just go ahead and try them all. So listen, if folks do try them, want to let us know what they think, Colin, how can the kids at home hang out with us?
Yeah, super easy. Check us out on Instagram. If you want to email us, cheers@stopwastingyourwine. We're also over on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. Other than that, that's it. That's where we're hanging out.
What else do you need? That's
What
it.
else do you need? That's it. That's it.
Again, we appreciate you, Chris. We appreciate you, listener, for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Stop Wasting Your Wine. And in the meantime, just remember, stop wasting your wine.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.